नमस्ते दोस्तों। आज ये एक्चुअली इतनी बार हो नहीं पाएगा। आज किसी तरह से मैं दूसरी बार लाइव आ गया हूँ। तो मैं एक्चुअली क्वाइट हैप्पी कि किसी तरह से टाइम मिल गया है कि एक बार चलो दूसरी बार भी ट्राई करते हैं। तो वही है, आज शाम को जब काम वाम रैप अप हुआ तो आई वाज लाइक चलो देखते हैं ट्रेंड्स पे क्या चल रहा है, व्हाट्स व्हाट्स हैपनिंग। तो मुझे काफ़ी सारे इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक्स मिल गए कनाडा के परिप्रेक्ष्य में और नॉर्थ अमेरिका के परिप्रेक्ष्य में मेनली। तो मैंने सोचा चलो एक सेकंड लाइव भी ट्राई करते हैं। तो मैंने फटाफट एक थंबनेल बनाया और थोड़ा सा एक वही है जैसे मैं आजकल अब करने लगा हूँ कि रोज़ एक छोटा सा डेक, एक ऐसे पावर पॉइंट बना के रखता हूँ। तो क्योंकि वो ये कि आज सुबह जिन जिन टॉपिक्स के मैंने अपने मूवी रिव्यू में, अपने मूवी रिस्पॉन्स में बात की थी, उससे रिलेटेड भी कुछ आ गया। एंड ओवरऑल कंसिडरिंग कनाडा का इन्फ्लेशन डेटा आया है, हमारा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का थोड़ा बेटर हुआ है। मैन्युफैक्चरिंग डेटा इन कनाडा हैज़ बिकम स्लाइटली बेटर, मे बी नॉट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बट होल सेल्स एंड एवरीथिंग। सो आई थिंक अच्छा दिन है, पॉजिटिव दिन है मेरे हिसाब से। सो आई वाज लाइक ओके, एक लाइफ तो बनता है। चलो गाइस, देखते हैं। पहला टॉपिक आज का लेते हैं। तो ये हंगर गेम्स की नई मूवी आ रही है एंड एग्जैक्टली 1 ईयर लेटर इट्स गोना रिलीज। एक्चुअली हंगर गेम्स का मुझे एज सच कोई शौक नहीं है, बट मैंने पहले ही 4 मूवीज देखी जब वो आई। आई डोंट थिंक मैंने एक भी उनमें से थिएटर में देखी थी। सो आई ऑल या तो स्ट्रीमिंग पे देख ली। उन दिनों तो कॉलेज के बच्चे थे तो इधर उधर से भी मिल जाती थी मूवीज़, तो तब तब देख लेते थे। मगर मैंने कभी ऐसा टू बी कम्प्लीटली ट्रांसपेरेंट, मैंने कभी बुक्स भी नहीं पढ़ी हैं। तो आई फॉर मी द ओनली बेसिस इज द मूवीज। एक मिनट गाइस, यहाँ पे एक छोटा सा स्पेस हीटर रखा हुआ है मैंने। उसको बंद कर रहा था क्योंकि कमरे का दरवाज़ा बंद कर दो तो बहुत गर्म बहुत जल्दी हो जाता है। तो एनीवेज गोइंग बैक टू दिस कि मैंने कभी बुक्स तो पढ़ी नहीं है हंगर गेम्स की, तो आई हैव नो आइडिया हाउ द बुक्स आर रिटन और एनीथिंग। बट एग्जैक्टली 1 ईयर फ्रॉम टुडे, दैट इज 20th November 2026 को ये सनराइज ऑन द रीपिंग रिलीज होगी। This is the second prequel to the original Hunger Games. So basically, this series is following the Star Wars pattern, क्योंकि उन्होंने भी बीच की 3 पहले निकाल दी थी। उसके बाद they came up with the first 3 and then they came up with the last 3. So I have a feeling that okay, अभी ये पहली 3 आ जाएंगी, it will lead all the way up to the first original Hunger Games. एंड उसके बाद दिल उसमें मेरे को उसका तो नाम भी नहीं याद यार, जेनिफर लॉरेंस का उसमें, बट वो हो सकता है उसकी कोई बेटी या कुछ, मे बी समवन विल show up and then Susan Collins will probably write the next 3, or so called the last 3. Anyway, this is hypothesis right now, but it looks to be this series is sort of asynchronously progressing forward. तो मैंने सोचा चलो इसका टीज़र देखते हैं। सो इसकी बैक स्टोरी है कि जो इसकी पहली वाली थी, द इन द प्रीक्वल सीरीज द फर्स्ट वन, मैं उसका एक मिनट फटाफट नाम देख के बताता हूँ आप सबको। हंगर गेम्स, इसमें क्या दिया हुआ है, हाँ ये जो बैलर्ड ऑफ सॉन्ग बर्ड्स एंड स्नेक्स है। एक्चुअली जब मैं और मेरी वाइफ डेट कर रहे थे तब हम लोग ये मूवी देखने गए थे डेट पे। तो मुझे थोड़ा बहुत याद है, मतलब ऑनेस्टली पिक्चर थोड़ी ठीक थी, देख ली। बट टू बी ऑनेस्ट, मुझे ये जो पहली वाली प्रीक्वल थी, compared to the first 4 that came out up to Mockingjay Part 2, मुझे इतनी अच्छी नहीं लगी थी. आई फेल्ट कि थोड़ा रिपेटिटिव कॉन्सेप्ट था. दे हैड अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ अ बैक स्टोरी कि अच्छा अब हंगर गेम्स पॉपुलैरिटी लूज कर रहे हैं, सो दे आर ट्राइंग टू गेट इनोवेटिव, बट ओवरऑल मूवी बेयरली रजिस्टर्ड ऑनेस्टली. मतलब ठीक थी, देख ली, इट वाज लाइक कि हाँ अब लगी हुई है, देख सकते हैं. बट ऑनेस्टली आफ्टर सीइंग द टीजर ऑफ दिस वन, आई फील आई फील देयर इज अ होप ऑफ रिवाइवल. मतलब um, इस टीजर में एक शॉट है वेयर इट्स अ काउंटडाउन फ्रॉम 10 to 1. That's actually quite well done, and it looks like this is going to have a little more oomph than the first one, or the first one in the prequel series. So, although I still don't know if it has the punch, when we saw the first Hunger Games, या the Mockingjay Part 1, Part 2 के जो trailers आए थे, I don't know if it's that level. एक तो memory is a little faded on that, but um, other than that, I don't know if it's that level of excitement. But definitely इसमें, because they're going to talk about a quarter quell जो हर 25 years में होता है, this would definitely have some interesting twists and aspects to it. So इसमें फिर यही होगा कि I'll have to I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to the movie. Actually, I'll definitely watch it. But again, I'll have to wait and see if it can reach the crescendo like Mockingjay reached. Um, Actually, Bob C ad driver हमको पहला concurrent viewer मिला, guys. This is a moment to celebrate. And I'm so sorry, Bobcat driver 6930. I'm still learning, so I'm not exactly sure how to how to show your message on the screen. Let me see if OBS has a way to do this. But thank you so very much, Bobcat driver 6930. They are saying that the book is brilliant, so I have high hopes for this movie. So I guess you have more context on this, Bobcat driver. Um, and yeah, I haven't read the books. I actually didn't even know that the second three, or I guess the two prequels that came out, they are actually based on books that have come out since the first three came out. I thought they were just making up. I thought they were just making up new movies like they had to kind of do with Game of Thrones season 7 and 8. Um, but yeah, I was researching this earlier today, and I saw that okay, it looks like there's actually a book that was written, and this one came out. This one came out, I think, earlier in this year. So they're going to take about, I guess, 2 years to make the movie. So I mean, all the very best to the team that's going to make it. Yeah, I have good hopes. I would definitely recommend everyone to watch the teaser, and then sort of just wait for the movie to come out next year. Although when sometimes when the teaser is released so far before the movie, it can be a double-edged sword. I would caution the Lionsgate production team कि भाई आप लोग ओवर हाइप मत कर देना. Don't overhype this, right? Because otherwise what will happen is people will start losing interest by the time the movie actually comes out. So try to strike a balance. I think 1 year earlier for the trailer or for the teaser is I'm not sure if I've seen any other movie do this. So this is definitely a very interesting take on the marketing. Otherwise, even the biggest of the movies that I know, they'll start doing maybe 3 months, 6 months. But उसके पहले करने का कोई ज़्यादा मीनिंग नहीं रहता. तो let's see. एक मिनट. Let me actually. अरे यार. There was a way to actually show the chat. Mm-hmm. Docs, scenes, stats, YouTube, live control panel. Why do I have to sign in? Okay. It needs to verify that this is me. Complete sign in using your अरे पासटी का मुझे कुछ तो दिखाओ यार. अरे कोई टेक्स्ट वैक्स भेज दो. चलो, let me try entering password. Try another way. Let me see. Okay. So another code, man. Come on. यार क्या बकवास है. ये 2 लेवल का मेरे को इतना करवाया इसने. हाँ चल चल, ठीक है, कंटिन्यू. ओके. इतना कुछ करने के बाद यूट्यूब लाइव पैनलिस्ट, यूट्यूब लाइव पैनल वो चला नहीं रहा है. Again, Bobcat Driver is saying that I hope they don't bombard us with trailers, TV spots. Matlab, I don't care if they put anything on the TV. My life basically runs on on streaming anyway. But I get your point. I anyways pay for YouTube Premium, तो उधर भी मेरे को ads देखने नहीं पड़ते. But let's see what they do. Chalo guys, I think इस पे होगी. Let's go to our next topic for the day. And अब जो मेरा एक लौता व्यूअर है वो भी शायद चला जाए, क्योंकि I'm gonna start talking politics, which is what a lot of this channel is about. So actually here is a article that I found. It looks like Prime Minister Carney is in the UAE, and he has signed an investment protection agreement Thursday with UAE during a visit to Abu Dhabi. That has involved limited media access as concerns grow. The country is fueling ethnic violence in Sudan. Now, I mean, yeah, what personally I feel in Canada, we are in a space that if we are getting a decent trade deal with a country that overall has a decent track record, then we should take it. I'm not saying we don't have to support or not support anyone else's wars, but just to reject trade deals when we are already facing tariffs after decades of free trade. Now we don't have free trade anymore in North America. Matlab, at some point I've been saying on this channel for a while that we need to diversify the economy. We need to diversify our trade partners and everything. So I feel it's okay. Like, at the end of the day, we need to first secure ourselves, have a healthier economy, have a healthier just have a overall healthier idea that just give people a little more hope in the country. So I think it's okay. If you're signing a trade deal or if you're having some investment deal with the UAE, I think they can go for it. So इस article में एक और है. Janice Tang, founding director of the Monk School of Global Affairs at the University of Toronto, says the UAE is becoming a leader in AI and can help Canada through both investment and innovation. As much as I like the ring of this statement, मुझे लगता है ये थोड़ा सा scary भी है. Because at the end of the day, UAE is 11 odd million people, right, total. Canada is 41 million. Canada has the same amount, much more natural resources in terms of the breadth of the natural resources we have. I think I think to even have such a statement that okay, UAE can help us. Yes, UAE can help us, but again, why is Canada not helping itself? Because we should be the ones globally exporting natural resources. We should be the ones who become who become the global suppliers of minerals, oil, everything, right? Um, and then we should then be using all this money for we should then be using all this money for you know investing in our own AI models, investing in our own data centers and everything. So I'm glad that there's a positive side to this, but I also feel that okay, with the vastness and the amount of opportunity Canada offers, this should be this should be uh, this should ideally be Canada's going ahead and doing all this. So TK, the UAE is using its cheap energy to power data centers, similar to how Canadian firms hope to use Alberta's oil sands. Why are you still hoping? Do it. Use it. It's going to be one of the powerhouses, one of the nodes in the global economy. Stein said of the UAE, yes, the UAE will become one of the or I think it already pretty much is, right? And it's one of the most important nodes in the global economy. I guess if you're saying I'm built around AI, then okay, UAE will become one of the important nodes. I don't doubt that. Why not Canada? That's the question I would like to leave everyone with on this topic. I think mixed. मेरी इसमें बहुत mixed feelings हैं because I mean ठीक है हमेशा अच्छा ही लगता है जब कोई ट्रेड डील या ऐसे कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट डील साइन होती है बट फिर लगता है कि यार ये सब तो हमें करना चाहिए भाई. Anyway, let's see how this goes. If there's anything worth tracking that comes out in the next days, then I'll try to cover it again. Now, some bitter news again. Bell is slashing nearly 700 jobs in difficult but necessary decision. We actually हमने पिछले थोड़े टाइम में बहुत सारे ऐसे डिफ़िकल्ट बट नेसेसरी डिसीजंस देखे हैं. अभी अमेज़ॉन का हुआ, उसके पहले माइक्रोसॉफ्ट का चल रहा था, सब ने किया है. गूगल ले लो, आई थिंक एप्पल ने भी किया ही है. सो this is another round. Yes, Bell has done about 17,000 job cuts since 2023. I guess I've clearly forgotten how to type English. Jobs cut. लिख दिया मैंने. So the cut this time would be 650 manager positions at Bell and then 40 jobs at Bell Media subsidiary. So yeah, I guess that it comes up to 700. Now something to note here, यहाँ पे कुछ interesting दिख रहा है. Most of these are manager positions. And if we read this article carefully, इसमें लिखा हुआ है कि obviously no unionized employees have been laid off. Which is fine. If you need your unionized employees, you need your unionized employees. But again, unionized employees का क्या है कि हमें पता नहीं कि क्यों नहीं ले ऑफ किया. क्या उनको आप कर नहीं सकते थे या आपने उन्हें नहीं किया because you actually need them, right? And I don't understand the union laws in Canada well enough to have a commentary on this, but again, this can go both ways. Now, company said, okay, the media division cuts are predominantly in corporate departments. Now, corporate departments का क्या है ना कि ये हर जगह देखने को मिल रहा है. So, before when AI was becoming more and more popular, we were seeing that the whole scare was that all the technical labor jobs will go away because all of those can be apparently automated. But now that AI is here, AI has been around for a while, we are actually seeing quite the opposite. It's the manager roles that are getting cut, right? And again, as we go into this article a little bit, the move was made to better align our team structure with our growth plan. And I mean इसमें I didn't मैंने इसका स्क्रीनशॉट नहीं लिया बट एक सेंटेंस भी लिखा था as we are aligning better with AI etc. These jobs, I'm paraphrasing here, but these jobs are redundant. So we are seeing a lot of mid-level managers actually losing their roles because a lot of the decision making that they do or a lot of the data that they need for their decision making is very readily available. So a fewer number of mid-level managers will be able to do a lot more work because they'll have data summaries readily available to them. They can just take the decision and move on. They'll just get more effective. At least this is my hypothesis on why these jobs are sort of going away. Something related, I actually didn't add this here. It'll take a little bit of time to compile a lot of data on this, but we have had 3 major outages in IT this year: Azure, AWS, and now Cloudflare. Now, I mean, these could have been security breaches, but the problem is if they were purely security breaches, why so many in 1 year? I have a hunch that some of the AI generated code got pushed to production, and as a result of that, it failed, or it ended up, crashing a node or something. So I don't know कि इसमें obviously पूरी story तो मैंने अभी, as I said, I'll have to analyze all this, but that's something that's ticking inside me, thinking कि ये जितना AI code produce कर रहा है, I agree it's pretty good, but I think it's also a little premature to say कि okay सारे coders चले जाएंगे. Someone's gonna have to vet it. Someone's gonna have to test it properly. There has to be at least a human in the loop, and companies may soon realize they need more than one human in the loop before the code gets pushed to production. मैं अभी एक project पे था जहाँ पे we were doing custom app development and power apps, and उसमें भी हमने जावास्क्रिप्ट का कुछ कस्टम कोड लिखा था, बट अगेन आप कोपायलट से कोड ले सकते हो, बट और आई गेस कोई भी एलएलएम से आप कोड ले सकते हो, बट क्या वो चलेगा नहीं चलेगा? इज इट द मोस्ट अपडेटेड लाइब्रेरीज? इज इट द मोस्ट अपडेटेड वर्जन? दैट्स नेवर अ गारंटी. एंड समटाइम्स व्हाट हैपेंस इज इट विल गिव यू what you have exactly asked for, and you expect the code to have been written in a way that it'll take care of some edge cases, but more often than not it does not. So you have to keep iterating with the LLM till it gives you a piece of code which will reasonably reasonably be able to handle, let's say, 99% of the cases, even more than that, hopefully even more than that. And उसमें time लग जाता है. You can't deny that. So let's see how much of these AI related layoffs sustain into the next few years, and how much of it is okay, they may have to rehire or come back to it and whatnot. So let's see. In terms of Bell, it looks like they reported a profit attributable to common shareholders of 4.5 billion this in its latest quarter, which is more amazing than the loss that it had of 1.24 billion the same quarter last year. So Okay, looks like the cuts they have made have at least played a partial role in bringing them back to profitability. What what we are not seeing over here is, um, और आई गेस वी आर ऑलरेडी, आई मीन अगर ये प्रॉफिट नंबर है तो हमें ऑलरेडी पता है कि ओके ये obviously this is already netted with all the revenue taxes and everything. I guess what we are not seeing here though is how much of it is due to sort of AI related layoffs versus just over hiring, which had to be culled in one sense or the other. Um, Interestingly, we barely saw a 1% jump after this news came out. It could just be because trading volumes in Canada tend to be a lot lesser than trading volumes in the US, but typically we see a slightly higher jump. I think Metas or all these other big Mac 7, when they announce layoffs, their stock jumps, 2-3% in one day. But yeah, we saw about 1% increase in the stock price. I guess it's taken as a bittersweet. It's taken as a bittersweet news, right? Because ultimately people are losing their jobs, and an economy that is already sort of reeling from the shock of tariffs. इसमें अभी कहाँ पे ये 700 लोग जॉब्स ढूंढेंगे, कैसे इनको जॉब्स मिलेंगी, भगवान मालिक है. तो yeah, I would say overall this piece of news is a little on the sadder side, but it's also a very interesting one. Ki, yeah, it looks like another tech giant, Verizon in the US, they have on Thursday announced it is cutting more than 13,000 jobs, representing 20% of its management workforce. This is becoming a theme across industries that management level roles are being cut. That's interesting because when you start your career, you start off as an IC and you dream of becoming a manager, when you're telling people what to do and you're reviewing their work. There's a charm to it. I'm not saying not every manager becomes, okay, I'm going to boss you around. No, you have to be a leader, and you look forward to getting in that position where you are a real leader, hopefully a respected one. But this seems to be a theme. Either organizations are flattening even more, so it makes it even less or even more difficult to get to the next level. And then organizations then you have ICs having to stay as ICs for a lot longer. So here is my take on this. Eventually, companies will have to make a choice. If you're not going to offer valid career paths to people who are joining a company, you will see much, much higher attrition rates because people will just leave the company, try to get a better paycheck somewhere else, maybe work there for a few years, save some money, and then go and try and, eventually get to, starting their own business. But again, if AI is the primary driver of all these jobs being lost, that would be considered more of standard practice then. Or we could see that, okay, the people who need to absolutely stay at the company, corporates may actually start saying, okay, now all of your contract employees, we don't offer you any extra expenses. Take a bunch of money and then do your bit, leave. Or you can be on a long-term contract of some sort. I think this story, the way it's unfolding all across North America at least, is ये थोड़ा चिंताजनक तो है. इसमें there will be more sad stories to come. I personally feel, and we can only hope that everyone eventually finds their way in time. नहीं तो नहीं फिर वो ही है. Canada तो is anyways sort of going through a tough time. US maybe it's better than Canada, but इट्स एक्चुअली नॉट दैट ग्रेट. मतलब जहाँ अगर जो लोग टेक में काम कर रहे हैं, जो एआई में काम कर रहे हैं, उन सब की उन सब का बढ़िया चल रहा है. बट जो लोग एनी नॉन टेक इंडस्ट्री में काम कर रहे हैं, दे आर ऑल्सो स्ट्रगलिंग. उनका भी आए दिन ले ऑफ हो जाता है. मिड लेवल मैनेजमेंट को निकाल दिया है क्योंकि एआई से रिप्लेस हो रहा है. अब आप देख ही रहे हैं, ये टेलीकॉम का एग्जांपल आपके सामने है. तो let's hope um, let's hope there is some sort of a middle ground while AI reaches a crescendo of its applicability, that there are just ways to be able to accommodate some people. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say on this. चलिए दोस्तों, आगे बढ़ते हैं आज के टॉपिक पे. Okay, so Michelle Rempel Garner, she is a conservative MP. Conservatives plan to try and amend asylum system rules in border security bill. मोटा मोटा मैं भी बोल देता हूँ. I agree with most of whatever she has said here, right? So somebody, I think Canadians want some change in this regard. Canada's system for allowing and accepting asylum claims is pretty generous. Yes, Rempel Garner said at a press conference at on Parliament Hill. I think Canadians want some change in this regard. For sure, we've seen this issue come up again and again. I mean, most of the time it's just termed as mass immigration, but उसमें ये सब asylum and then too many immigrants ये सब आ ही जाता है. So I don't think she's necessarily wrong there. Now, so somebody who's failed to review, I think it's fair that the only federal benefits that they receive is emergency healthcare, and I think a lot of Canadians would agree. Yes, to a large extent, I do agree. क्योंकि अगर आपका asylum review fail हो गया है, अगर if you've been determined to not be a legitimate asylum claim, then federal benefits मतलब at the end of the day वो Canadian taxpayer का पैसा है, right? तो उसमें तो जब तक आपने कनाडा में टैक्सेस नहीं दिए तो या मतलब या आई एम ओके. आई थिंक Canadians have the first right on Canadian taxpayers' money, and then whatever is left over can be distributed. Her proposed changes include disallowing asylum claims from people who transited through Europe or another G7 country on their way to Canada and denying access to social benefits. Okay. I don't know if, I don't know why transiting through a G7 country should have a bearing. I'm a little confused if that would even be possible, but again, there's a little bit of reiteration over here that okay, if your asylum review has failed, you should only get emergency medical treatment. And mota mota मैं बोल चुका हूँ, I agree with that. So yeah, this includes clarifying the definition of serious criminality in the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act to be a conviction of an indictable offense or a hybrid offense where the Crown proceeded with an indictable charge. Yes, I agree with that piece. We should clarify what serious criminality means before we make any rules, laws that reference this phrase. She said increased rates of permanent and temporary immigration, in addition to increased asylum claims, have broken Canada's system and contributed to declining support for immigration. I don't know if it's broken. Yes, there were some things that were abused, and now they're being fixed. So I don't think it's that broken anymore, since we have seen a lot of data on student visas being rejected, a lot of diploma mills being shut down. So I think it is being fixed. So I think the word broken is a little exaggerated. Contributed to declining. Yes, I mean, all of the misuse over the past few years has led to declining support. So yeah, I don't disagree with that. But mota mota, I would say I agree. There are some parts of the article where I'm like, okay, how does this fit? But ठीक है, overall, it's again, I think it's overall a very centrist approach. The whole idea is if you have like the first right of Canadian taxpayers' money should be to Canadians, and any way we have to solve the federal debt piece, budgets don't balance themselves. And again, the recent budget is also pointing towards more spending, but I hope that more spending is targeted enough that eventually we have a vibrant economy. Then over the next 10 to 15 years, I'm not even going to say next 5 years, let over the next 10 to 15 years, we can have, a little bit of we can be moving towards a balanced budget. We are maybe pretty much almost there or something. But again, 10 years, 15 years, I don't think it's doable in like 4 or 5 years or anything. Alright guys, चलो अगला वाला थोड़ा जल्दी जल्दी जाते हैं. Okay, so good news I would say overall, because यहाँ पे ये 2 articles आए हैं जो I want to sort of, ये मेरा last topic है आज का discussion का, so I wanted to leave on a positive note, क्योंकि आज वैसे भी सुबह भी एक किया लाइक कि यार आज थर्सडे है, फ्राइडे के पहले बुरी बातें नहीं करनी चाहिए. तो Canada inflation eases to 2.2% in October. I think we have sometime a few months ago हमने actually 1.6 भी देखा था, but again that could have just been maybe my memory is serving me wrong, maybe it was like January or something जब Canada में कोई निकलता ही नहीं है बाहर, and your vacation period is done, so everyone is begrudgingly heading back to their offices. So I think I saw 1.6%, but ठीक है. Dampened by a steeper drop in gasoline prices. Man, I agree. Gas prices बहुत नीचे गए हैं recently, and this is always a bittersweet feeling, क्योंकि मैं gas prices नीचे देखता हूँ फिर, because I have an ICE car right now, मेरी combustion engine वाली गाड़ी है, उसमें वो तो तेल पीती है, तो जब मैं गैस प्राइस कम देखता हूँ देन आई फील हैप्पी कि यार अच्छा टैग बढ़ जाएगा, बट देन आई एम लाइक यार अगर गैस प्राइस कम है तो पूरी इकोनॉमी नीचे जा रही है, तो भाई होपफुली काम वाम चलता रहे, इनकम चलती रहे. इट्स ऑलवेज अ बिटर स्वीट फीलिंग. इट्स ऑलवेज इजी टू गेट हैप्पी एंड बी लाइक कि ओह गैस का प्राइस कम हो गया, बट देन यू हैव टू रिमेंबर वो गैस का प्राइस क्यों कम हो रहा है. सो एंड दैट्स व्हाई आई काइंड ऑफ पुट दिस अदर article about factory sales, right? Ki, even though your inflation is easing out, factory sales are sort of going back up. So I was like, okay, now next time I see cheaper gas, I'll be slightly more optimistic. Ki even though chalo gas price kam hai, but फिर भी country में trade बढ़ रहा है, sales बढ़ रही हैं, so that's actually a healthy sign for the economy, I would say. मोटा मोटा इन दोनों आर्टिकल में मैं ये कह सकता हूँ कि इस साल और रेट कट तो नहीं होगा. सो हम ये इन्फ्लेशन वाला आर्टिकल पढ़ें. Canadian dollar, the latest data likely does little to dispel its concern, even with energy prices dampening inflation following April's removal of the federal government's consumer carbon tax and dropping of most retaliatory tariffs on imports of US goods in September. तो हमने retaliatory tariffs तो काफ़ी हद तक हटा दिए हैं. That's what this is saying, which I think is okay. I mean, I think that's a very mature way of dealing with this, right? क्योंकि आपके नेबर ने आप पे tariffs डाल दिए, क्या वो आप ठीक है आपका एक्सपोर्ट उधर महंगा हो गया है, बट क्या आपके लोग जो अमेरिकन सामान खरीदते हैं या जो आप प्रोड्यूस नहीं करते हो, क्या उस पर टैरिफ लगाना बनता है? बिकॉज एट द एंड ऑफ द डे टैरिफ्स आर पेड बाय योर ओन पीपल. द इंपोर्टर इन कैनेडा हैज टू पे अ टैरिफ एंड देन simply to maintain their margins they have to transfer it. So transfer to the consumer, that is, so that obviously leads to a proportional increase of the price. So overall, I think that was a mature move. Ki even though our exporters are going to get hurt if they are only primarily exporting to the US, which is inevitable because that part of the decision making is not in your hand. US decides what they want to do with their country. But I think at least saying that, okay, at least the other side of the equation doesn't have to get hurt, I think that was a fair call. So Canadian dollar and government bond yields were largely unchanged following the data, and market pricing continues to point to a low chance of a rate cut next month. Yes. Yeah, it'll have to cool down further because the midpoint is 2% and it has to be between 1 to 3%. So अगी थोड़ा नीचे जाना और आवश्यक है इसका. But again, Canada factory sales rise 3.3% in September to highest level in 7 months. ये थोड़ी पुरानी न्यूज़ है but फिर भी I think आया तो आर्टिकल आज ही है. I think the October data is just not available. But trade among the country's wholesalers also picked up for the month. Boeing sales to the highest on record. I think the highest on record is more around since the tariffs came about, not necessarily overall. Canadian industry continues to show signs it's fighting through the stresses and uncertainty of the trade conflict with the US, with factory sales climbing strongly in September to the highest level in 7 months. Now, just for clarity, everyone, ये वैसे भी आपको sources मेरे description में मिल जाएंगे, but ये दोनों Wall Street Journal के articles हैं. अब आप पूछोगे कि why not a Canadian source? The reason is all Canadian media will have some sort of a bias when it comes to Canadian data and how the government is handling, right? I wanted to get as unbiased as I could. Now, Wall Street Journal, yes, they have a tilt of their own, but I would say that's more or less with respect to the US. बाकी उन्हें जो भी फेंकना होगा वो US के हिसाब में फेंकें तो चलेगा. But consistently also Wall Street Journal is noted as, all the big investors, money makers, finance industry professionals, they read Wall Street Journal to sort of stay updated. Forbes magazine, Wall Street Journal, Money magazine, यही सब नाम बार बार आते हैं. So I would say overall this is a fairly reliable source. And if they are mentioning that, Canada is fighting strongly, blah, blah, blah. So I think we are doing something right. That's my conclusion. And as I said, I wanted to end today with a happy note. So that's why I took these articles. And then to sort of support my happiness, I also looked at, I found sources which are essentially not Canadian, but they are giving good news for Canada. एक मिनट में ये वाला अरे ये तो इसमें तो आर्टिकल ही छुप रहा है. ठीक है. So manufacturing sales in September increased 3.3% from the month before to a seasonally adjusted 72 billion CAD, equivalent of about 51.35 billion, I guess, USD. Compared with the year earlier, sales were up 2.7%, which is again positive sign. Could be more, but okay. Developed country, 2.7% is about as good as it gets in terms of growth. So okay, positive sign again. The rise was stronger than the data agency's advanced estimate for 2.8% increase and came on the heels of a 1.1% fall in factory trade in August. So end of summer we saw a decrease, but then we saw a pretty big bump the next month. Again, positive sign. September's rebound further recovers from weakness early in the year when the initial US tariffs were imposed on Canadian goods and left shipments in the third quarter up 2.8% at roughly CAD to 212.3 billion. Biggest quarterly increase since the second quarter of 2022. So 2022 is when COVID was finally pretty much gone. And we have kind of crossed that threshold. So kudos to Canada's policy, and kudos to Canada's efforts on rejuvenating or trying to rejuvenate its economy even after tariffs. And especially we were struggling even just post-COVID, right? Even in the pre-tariff era, but the post-COVID era, तो उन 2-3 सालों में भी the country struggled. but it looks like chalo, there is some sort of a positive trajectory that I'm seeing when I put these two articles together. So I have hope. Um, of course, as I was saying, इसके last paragraph में भी लिखा है September's strength in manufacturing and wholesale trade supports expectations. The central bank will hold off on further rate cuts for now, said Bradley Saunders, North American economist at Capital Economics. So yeah, mota, that's what I would say. Ki, yeah, you can expect no more rate cuts for this year. Again, that's a good thing and a bad thing, but overall, I would say the inflation will have to drop between or below 2% for another rate cut, just because you suddenly cut 25 basis points, the next couple of months you will see an uptick in inflation. 4% पहुंच जाएगा, 3.5% पहुंच जाएगा. तो ठीक है, there is a bittersweet angle to this as well, but I feel overall the economy is inching back in the right direction. Although another sort of lukewarm indicator, if you will, is the exchange rate. We sort of started the year at 1.39, close to 1.4, and we are kind of at 1.4. So the whole year, at least on average, the Canadian dollar hasn't deteriorated further. But I would have liked if it could appreciate a little bit more. 1.35 पहुंच जाए, 1.3 तो खैर I think दिल्ली दूरस्त, Ottawa दूरस्त, but 1.35 भी पहुंच जाए, at least that would take us back to what the exchange rate was, 2019-2020 era. At that time, we can say that we have fully reversed the impact of COVID. And in fact, if we sort of get to 1.35, we can also make a safe claim that we have also been able to withstand tariffs in a way that, the economy is back up on its feet. It's back to the pre-COVID era. So obviously that's also pre-tariff era. So that would imply, because trade with the US is strained, that Canadians are now trading more widely across the world. And that would be, again, going back to, मैं इस चैनल पे बहुत बार बोल चुका हूँ, अपनी इकोनॉमी के ट्रेड रिलेशनशिप्स, कंट्री के ट्रेड रिलेशनशिप्स डाइवर्सिफाई करिए. आप यूएस के साथ ट्रेड करेंगे, आई मीन 80% ऑफ कैनेडियंस लिव अगेन क्लोज within 200 kilometers of the border. Trading with the US is a non-starter. You will have to do it. उस पे तो खैर मुद्दा ही नहीं है. But at the same time, have your backup plans, right? Plan B, Plan C क्या है तुम्हारा? अगर I would say safely expect the tariffs environment to actually stay even beyond the current administration in the US. वो अगली एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन आते ही पहले दिन तो सब रिवर्स नहीं कर देगी ना. मान लो आपके मतलब की भी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन आ जाए यूएस में, जो they are like, okay, let's move a little more towards what free trade was considered prior to Trump 2.0. वो एक दिन में सब रिवर्स नहीं कर देंगे, उनको भी टाइम लगेगा. आप उनको 1-2 साल दोगे, दे विल रिव्यू, राइट, कि ओके हमारे पिछले एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने ये पॉलिसीज डाली थी, were they actually effective, were they actually bad? They'll have to do an assessment, and based on that then they will decide कि रिवर्स करना भी है या नहीं. तो आप तब तक बैठे नहीं रह सकते, आपको कुछ ना कुछ अपने लिए रखना पड़ेगा. एंड फिर अगर मान लो रिवर्स हो भी जाए, तब आपके एक्सपोर्टर्स देख सकते हैं कि ओके अब हमारे पास कितना क्वांटिटी है, राइट. सो इट्स ऑलवेज अ बैलेंसिंग एक्ट, एंड आई थिंक इट्स ओवरऑल, आई नो जब ऐसा कुछ लगता है कंट्री पे, देन एवरीवन फील्स लाइक सैड और बैड इन एनी वे, राइट, कि ओ माय गॉड, लॉन्ग स्टैंडिंग फ्रेंड हमको ऐसे कर रहा है. वो ऑल ह्यूमंस हैव दैट टेंडेंसी, राइट. बट आई थिंक ओवरऑल, if you just stick it out for some time, you are forced to think of alternatives, and then in the medium to long term you come out just fine. And I think Canada is finally, in Canada we are seeing some data to say that okay, we are on that recovery trajectory now. So anyways guys, with that आज के लिए मैं wrap up करता हूँ. I know मैं generally 1 घंटे तक चला जाता हूँ, but ठीक है. I think I've discussed the topics and I've said whatever I could um, on the articles that I found for the day. एक बार मैं देख लूँ कुछ और तो नहीं था. अरे नहीं, ये तो अच्छा ठीक है. हाँ, कुछ और नहीं था दोस्तों. तो आज के लिए बस इतना ही. आप जहाँ भी हैं, इंडिया में हैं तो enjoy the rest of your Friday. एंड अगर आप नॉर्थ अमेरिका में हैं देन शुभ रात्रि, शब बखैर. मिलते हैं कभी वीकेंड पे. एक्चुअली मैंने टॉपिक ऑलरेडी सोच लिया है तो मैं इस बार थंबनेल जल्दी डाल पाऊँगा. इट्स वेरी क्लोजली रिलेटेड टू दिस होल data on inflation that we have gotten, and it's going to be much more, it's going to be a deeper dive into a very specific topic, and that's going to be another sort of like a budget. जो मैंने बजट वाला लाइव किया था उसके उस लाइंस पे थोड़ा होगा. It'll be a deep analysis of a paper that's been published by Dalhousie University. So most likely I will do that on Saturday. So yeah guys, stay tuned for that, and please like करें, शेयर करें, सब्सक्राइब करें. आपको क्या अच्छा लगा, क्या बुरा लगा, प्लीज़ कमेंट्स में भी डालें. अगर गाली देने का मन करता है आप वो भी दे सकते हैं, बट प्लीज़ लाइक करें, शेयर करें, सब्सक्राइब करें और हमारे चैनल का थोड़ा सा हमको और रीच दें. थैंक यू फॉर योर टाइम एवरीवन. बाय बाय.